Busty, blonde extraterrestrial bombshell Sirius strutted into the dingy Tokyo dive bar, hoping to seduce emotionally vulnerable former Spec Ops mercenary Joseph Russell into stealing the data that could save her dying alien world, all while he remained clueless that he was being used like a puppet by a sexpot invader from the stars. Joseph was alone, hunched over his drink, his grizzled face cloaked in shadow. The stunning woman slid into the seat beside him, her perfume intoxicating. "Joseph Russell, I'm serious. I have a job for you." Her voice was a seductive purr. "Infiltrate a corporate vault, steal some files. You'll be set for life." Joseph's instincts screamed this was wrong, too good to be true. But his dick and his wallet spoke louder, drowning out all reason. He grunted and took the data pad with the job details. Little did he know, he was now a pawn in a secret alien civil war fighting to save Earth. Sirius and her faction needed the data to expose their rival's plan to invade and conquer humanity. If Joseph failed, if Sirius couldn't manipulate this foolish human man and secure the files, then her rebel cause was doomed, and so was Earth. Humanity would burn, decimated by the merciless Denobulan war machine, clueless that it had been secretly infiltrated and subverted for decades, unaware that their only hope lay in the unwitting former soldier, seduced by an extraterrestrial temptress with an agenda. All Joseph cared about was the huge payday and banging this babe, but he was in way over his head, gambling with the fate of humanity, all for some pussy and a fat stack of credits. He took another swig, squeezed Sirius's thigh, and sealed the deal, clueless that her true form was a hideous tentacled alien monstrosity. Joseph crept through the shadows of the corporate facility, pulse pounding in his ears. He rounded a corner and froze. Security bots whirred to life, aiming weapons. Alarms blared. Joseph's gun clicked empty. He was cornered, about to be overwhelmed. Suddenly, a blur of tentacles and claws ripped into the guards. It was Sirius, but not the bombshell blonde. This was her true alien form, a mass of writhing appendages and razor teeth. Together, the odd duo fought their way deeper into the complex. Joseph's bullets and Sirius's superhuman strength made short work of the resistance. They breached the secure vault, snatching the data drive. "Halt!" a voice boomed. A squad of Denobulan commandos aimed rifles at them, led by a scarred alien in ornate armor. "Commander Zarn," Sirius snarled, "you trained me, fought beside me, and now you betray our people?" "You are the traitor, Sirius," Zarn replied coldly. "This invasion is our only hope." All hell broke loose, commandos opening fire as Joseph and Sirius charged forward, fighting desperately. Joseph took a hit to the shoulder, crying out in pain. Sirius's tentacles lashed out, snapping necks and hurling soldiers aside. Zarn aimed his rifle at Sirius. Joseph tackled him, the two wrestling for control. Sirius grabbed Joseph, pulling him back as she sprayed cover fire. They fled, racing for the exit as alarms howled and bullets filled the air. Hours later, they holed up in a dingy safe house, licking their wounds. "What the fuck is going on?" Joseph demanded, wincing as Sirius tended to his injured shoulder. Her tentacles were surprisingly gentle. "My people are fractured," Sirius said sadly. "Hardliners like Zarn seek to conquer yours. They've infiltrated your governments, your corporations, stolen your weapons and technology. They will invade soon, and your planet will burn." Joseph recoiled. "And you dragged me into this, used me?" Sirius met his gaze. "I had no choice, but this data can stop them. Please, Joseph, help me save both our worlds." He wanted to tell her to fuck off. She'd lied to him, manipulated him. But looking into her alien eyes, he saw genuine desperation. And below that, maybe even affection. Joseph sighed, knowing he was probably signing his own death warrant. "Fine, I'm in. Let's expose these bastards and kick 'em off our planet." He managed a wry smile. "Never thought I'd die fighting space squids to save the world. But fuck it, I'm down for one last mission." Sirius squeezed his hand with a tentacle. Maybe it was just the blood loss talking, but damned if it didn't feel right, holding hands with a hot alien monster chick. Joseph chuckled darkly. Joseph grunted. hefting his rifle as Sirius piloted their stolen hoverbike through the night sky. The alien vixen had ditched her bombshell disguise, her writhing mass of tentacles and fangs on full display. It should have repulsed him, but after all they'd been through, all she'd risked for humanity, Joseph found her strangely alluring. They touched down outside a nondescript government building. Secretary of Defense Holloway had agreed to a clandestine meeting, a chance to present the evidence of the impending denobulan invasion. Joseph and Sirius crept inside, senses on high alert. The office was dark, silent, too silent. Joseph flipped on the lights and recoiled in horror. Holloway slumped at his desk, throat slit, glassy eyes staring at nothing. Bright red human blood pooled on the mahogany. "Fuck," Joseph snarled. "The squids got to him first." Sirius rummaged through the dead man's files with her tentacles, and they took the data drive. Without that evidence, no one will believe. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. "Shit, we're being framed for this. We gotta move now." They fled into the night, now fugitives pursued by both denobulan agents and human authorities. Joseph scrolled through his contacts, mind racing. Who could they trust? "Danny," he said at last. "Deadbolt, my old squad mate. If anyone can crack that data and find another way to get the word out, it's him." Sirius nodded, revving the hoverbike's engines. They roared off into the darkness to the ramshackle apartment complex on the outskirts of the city, where Danny made his hideout. Joseph pounded on the titanium door, praying his paranoid friend wouldn't just blast them on sight. A viewport slit opened. Asian features, a shock of bright purple hair and cybernetic eye implants peered out suspiciously. "Joe? That you? And what in the nine hells is that?" "Say it's me, Deadbolt. This is Sirius. I know she's a lot, but I need your help. We need your help. The fate of humanity is at stake." The door clicked open. Danny ushered them inside, gawking at Sirius's alien form. His apartment was a chaos of computers, wires, and empty energy drink cans. "Okay, I'm listening. This better be good." Joseph told him everything, with Sirius filling in the gaps. The denobulan infiltration, the invasion plans, the murdered Secretary of Defense. Danny whistled lowly, cracking his knuckles. "I'll see what I can salvage from the data. Those alien fucks are good, but they ain't Deadbolt good." After hours of furious hacking, Danny sat back, a grim look on his face. "Joe, it ain't just the invasion plans. We've got turncoats, moles, a whole list of human collaborators, high up in the government and military. They've been promised power, wealth, their own little fiefdoms after the squids conquer us." Joseph clenched his fists, a cold rage building in his gut. "Who, Danny? Give me names." Danny hesitated, then turned the screen to face him. Joseph scanning the list of traitors, veins turning to ice as he read one name in particular. General Thaddeus Reeves, his former CO. The man who had sent his entire squad on that doomed mission 2 years ago. "That son of a bitch. He set us up. Let my team die to what, as a fucking down payment to his alien masters?" Joseph slammed his fist on the table, making the monitors jump. Sirius laid a tentacle on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly soothing. "Joseph, I know your anger, I feel it too, but we have to be smart. Reeves is the key. If we can get to him, get him to confess, maybe we can stop this before it's too late." Joseph took a shuddering breath, the rage subsiding to cold determination. He met her eyes, then nodded slowly. "Okay, we bag that traitorous fuck, get him to spill his guts. We blow the lid off this whole thing, and then we send these alien shitstains back to whatever hole they crawled out of, for Earth, for my team and for us." He pulled Sirius close in a crushing embrace, damning the impossibility of it, a human soldier and an alien rebel, united against all odds. Her tentacles entwined him, gentle but strong. He could get used to this. But first, they had a planet to save, and a score to settle. "Let's roll out. Time to go stab a general in the fucking back for a change." Joseph and Sirius crept through the shadows, assault rifles at the ready. Beside them, Mike Gunner Briggs, Joseph's former Navy SEAL teammate, and a handful of loyal resistance fighters checked their weapons and gear. They had one shot at this, one chance to capture that traitorous fuck Reeves and make him confess. Deadbolt's intel was solid. Reeves was holed up in a fortified black site, meeting with his slimy denobulan masters, plotting the final moves before the invasion that would doom humanity. "Breach positions," Joseph whispered into his comm. "Gunner, Sirius, you're with me. We grab Reeves while the others cover our exit." "Roger that," Gunner replied, flashing a predator's grin. Sirius just nodded, her tentacles coiling with anticipation. They stacked up on the door. Joseph counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. Gunner kicked the door in with a thunderous boom. They stormed inside, weapons barking, muzzle flashes strobing in the darkness. Denobulan agents and turncoat human soldiers opened fire, plasma bolts and tracer rounds crisscrossing the room. Joseph dove for cover, popping up to put a burst through an alien's skull. Sirius was a whirlwind of death, her tentacles lashing out, snapping necks and hurling bodies. Gunner mowed down a squad of collaborators with his saw, whooping with savage glee. They fought their way deeper into the facility, leaving a trail of mangled corpses. Joseph's blood sang with the familiar rush of combat, his senses razor-sharp. This was what he was made for. They breached the command center. Reeves spun to face them, eyes wide with shock and fear. "Joseph, what the hell are you doing?" "Ending this, you traitorous son of a bitch," Joseph snarled, leveling his rifle. Reeves smirked, regaining his composure. "You have no idea what's coming, boy. The invasion is unstoppable. Join me, and you'll have wealth and power beyond your wildest dreams in the New Order." "So be it," Reeves shrugged. Then he moved, faster than any old man had a right to, a hidden denobulan augment. He slapped Joseph's gun aside, driving a fist into his gut. Joseph wheezed, stumbling back. Reeves followed with a flurry of strikes, his enhanced muscles giving him inhuman speed and strength. Joseph countered desperately, parrying and dodging. He landed a solid right cross, feeling the satisfying crunch of cartilage, but Reeves just laughed, his broken nose gushing red. They traded blows in a brutal dance, smashing through consoles and equipment. Reeves grabbed Joseph's throat, slamming him onto a sparking control panel. The world grayed out as fingers crushed his windpipe. Suddenly Reeves jerked back, howling in agony. Sirius had impaled him with a razor-sharp tentacle, punching through his shoulder. Joseph rolled free, gasping for air. Reeves staggered, blood pouring down his chest. With a snarl of pure hate, he slammed his hand down on a large red button. Alarms blared, and a cold robot voice announced the self-destruct. "This base is rigged with enough explosives to leave a crater a mile wide," Reeves laughed maniacally. "If I can't have Earth, then no one will." "Fall back!" Joseph roared. He emptied his mag into Reeves's knees, sending the traitor crashing to the floor. "Grab him! We're leaving!" Gunner heaved the crippled general over his shoulders in a fireman's carry. They sprinted for the exit, as sirens screamed and metal bulkheads slammed down around them. 30 seconds to detonation. They scrambled over the bodies of fallen foes, leaping over sealed doorways. The walls shook as explosions rippled through the lower levels. 20 seconds. They burst out into the night, charging across the tarmac to the evac point. A Predator drone swooped down, chin-mounted minigun spewing death. Sirius threw herself into its path, taking a burst to the torso, green ichor spraying. She screamed in pain and rage, her tentacles ripping the drone from the sky to explode against the ground. They piled into the waiting Osprey, rotors already spinning up to speed. Joseph dragged the wounded Sirius aboard as Gunner dumped a semi-conscious Reeves on the deck and slammed the hatch. "Go, go, go," Joseph screamed. The pilot wrenched back on the stick, the VTOL rocketing skyward as a miniature sun bloomed below them, the base vanishing in a maelstrom of fire and debris. The shockwave buffeted the aircraft, nearly flipping it end over end. Alarms shrieked and red lights flashed. They hung on for dear life as the Osprey clawed for altitude. Joseph cradled Sirius in his arms, pressing torn strips of uniform against her oozing wounds. She was pale, her tentacles limp and quivering. "Stay with me," he pleaded. "Don't you quit on me now, you squid bitch. I need you." "Just shut up and keep breathing," he growled. "That's a fucking order." He held her tight as Neo Tokyo sprawled out below them, glittering and serene, oblivious to how close it had come to annihilation. Police cruisers and military vehicles choked the streets, sirens dopplering as they converged on the blazing ruins of the base. Search and rescue choppers buzzed through the smoke-choked sky. The pilot juked away, corkscrewing between skyscrapers as a salvo of cannon shells chewed into their hull. The cops weren't fucking around. The Osprey jinked and weaved through a forest of glass and steel, anti-aircraft fire and rockets streaking past on all sides. Suddenly, a plasma beam punched through their tail rotor, sending them into a death spiral. They plummeted towards the neon-drenched streets, trailing fire and smoke. Gunner braced himself against the bulkhead, sighting up with his sniper rifle. The crack of a .50 cal echoed through the screaming wind as he picked off their pursuers with calm, methodical precision. "I can't hold her," the pilot cried. "We're going down hard." Buildings and vehicles spun crazily through the cockpit windows. Joseph held tight to Sirius's limp hand as the unforgiving asphalt rushed up to embrace them. The Osprey smashed into the street in a scream of shearing metal, glass imploding. Joseph blacked out on impact, his head smacking the bulkhead. He came to in a haze of pain, Gunner dragging him from the wreckage. Sirius hung limp over Gunner's other shoulder, green blood oozing from her reopened wounds. They stumbled into an abandoned warehouse as sirens wailed in the distance. Deadbolt zip-tied a semi-lucid Reeves to a chair. Joseph shook off his daze, stalking towards the battered general. "All right, you son of a bitch, start talking." Joseph grabbed Reeves's jaw, getting in his face. "When does the invasion begin? What are their targets?" Reeves spat a glob of blood and laughed. "You can't stop it, it's too late. They'll be here soon and your world will burn." Suddenly the warehouse doors exploded inward. Flashbang grenades clattered across the concrete floor. Erupting in searing light and sound, Joseph staggered back, ears ringing, vision whited out. Plasma fire stitched through the smoke. A hulking form emerged from the chaos, Commander Zahn flanked by a full Denobulan strike team in black armor. "Kill the humans," Zahn snarled. "Secure the general." All hell broke loose. Plasma bolts and bullets flew as Joseph's battered team fought for their lives. Gunner raked the aliens with his saw, buying precious seconds. Deadbolt returned fire with akimbo machine pistols, diving behind cover. Joseph unloaded his rifle into an advancing Denobulan, armor-piercing rounds punching through the alien's helmet. He pivoted to see a plasma bolt take Gunner in the chest, burning a fist-sized hole through his body armor. Gunner collapsed, a rattling breath escaping his lips. "No!" Joseph screamed, charging forward. He slammed into Zahn, tackling the alien commander to the ground. They grappled, Zahn's superhuman strength threatening to overwhelm him. Sirius leapt into the fray despite her wounds, razor tentacles lashing out. She ripped a Denobulan's head from its shoulders in a spray of viscous green, but 3 more aliens brought her down in a hail of plasma fire. She screeched in agony, her body smoking. Joseph headbutted Zahn, feeling the crunch of exoskeleton. He rolled free, snatching up a fallen plasma rifle and unloading into the dazed commander. Zahn's armor held, the alien rising with a guttural roar. Deadbolt lobbed a barrage of concussion grenades, the explosions sending the alien staggering. Joseph hauled a badly wounded Sirius over his shoulders in a fireman's carry, sprinting for the rear loading dock. Plasma bolts sizzled past his head as he ran, chewing chunks from the walls. He saw Reeves break free in the chaos, Zahn cutting him loose. The 2 traitors disappeared into the smoke. Joseph and Deadbolt burst into the loading area. A sleek black shape squatted before them, a Denobulan stealth shuttle. "Inside now!" Joseph roared. They stumbled up the ramp, plasma fire pinging off the hull. Joseph dumped Sirius into a jump seat, charging towards the cockpit. He hammered the door controls and the ramp snapped shut. "So I hope you know how to fly this thing," Deadbolt shouted, slapping a bandage on Sirius's oozing flank. "So we're about to find out." Joseph powered up the alien craft, its engines thrumming to life. The hull pinged as the denobulans outside opened fire. Joseph wrenched the controls and the shuttle leapt skyward, smashing through the warehouse roof in a storm of debris. Plasma beams lanced past the canopy as they rocketed into the night sky. "Strap in," Joseph growled. "This is going to get bumpy." He wove between skyscrapers as police drones buzzed around them, tracers peppering their shields. The shuttle shuddered, alarms blaring. "Shit, we're losing power." Joseph wrestled with the unfamiliar controls, the ground rising up to meet them. At the last second, he wrenched back on the stick, the shuttle's belly scraping the roof of an office tower. Tiles and antennas went flying, the craft shaking like it would break apart. And then they were clear, climbing, accelerating. The police drones fell behind, outpaced. The sky darkened from indigo to black as they clawed for orbit, the blue curve of the earth dropping away below. "I know." Joseph's voice was hoarse. The image of Gunner's fall, of the others cut down, seared into his mind. "They died fighting, like warriors. We'll make sure it wasn't in vain." Sirius dragged herself into the cockpit, leaving a trail of emerald blood. "Joseph." Her tentacles drooped listlessly, her normally vibrant skin ashen. "The invasion." He gripped her hand, meeting her alien eyes. "We'll stop it, we have to, for Earth, for our friends, for us." The comm panel beeped with an incoming transmission. Joseph flipped it on, brows knitting. A denobulan voice crackled through the static. "Confirmed. The assault begins in 2 hours. All ships set course for Sol. For the glory of the Empire, Earth will fall and the Terrans will submit, or burn." Joseph and Sirius locked gazes as the transmission faded. 2 hours. 2 measly hours until Armageddon. "The flagship," Sirius rasped. "If we can take out their command ship, disrupt their coordination, maybe we can slow them down. Buy Earth some time." Joseph nodded grimly, a plan taking shape. A desperate, suicidal plan, but their only shot. "Plot a course," he told Deadbolt. "We're going to kick in the front door and crash the squid's party." He squeezed Sirius's hand, feeling her weakening grip. "And then we're going to shove a nuke so far up their ass they'll be shitting sunshine." He turned to stare out the viewport at the stars, jaw clenched. One final mission, one last ride. Against all odds, with everything on the line. The shuttle accelerated towards the looming shapes on the sensors, towards destiny and doom, an insignificant mote against the void. Joseph gripped the controls of the stolen denobulan shuttle, his knuckles pale as Sirius slid into the co-pilot's seat beside him. Gunner and Deadbolt checked their weapons in the rear of the craft, grim determination etched on their faces. The shuttle slipped through the void, the looming shapes of the denobulan invasion fleet filling the viewscreen. Joseph transmitted the stolen security codes, his heart pounding. A tense moment passed. Then the comm crackled to life. "Shuttle Zeta 9, you are cleared for approach. Proceed to docking bay Theta." Joseph exhaled, glancing at Sirius, her tentacles coiled with tension. "We're in, get ready." The shuttle glided into the cavernous hangar of the denobulan flagship, settling onto the deck with a clank. Joseph and his team emerged, clad in stolen denobulan armor, moving with purpose. "All right, we split up here," Joseph said over their encrypted comm channel. "Sirius and I will hit the bridge. Gunner, Deadbolt, you know what to do." Gunner flashed a predator's grin. "Give 'em hell, boss. We'll light the fuse on this squid candle." Joseph clasped arms with his friends, knowing it might be for the last time. Then they were moving, Gunner and Deadbolt peeling off towards the engineering section, while Joseph and Sirius headed for the bridge. They stalked through the alien corridors, senses razor-sharp. A pair of denobulan soldiers rounded the corner ahead. Joseph and Sirius moved as one, striking with lethal precision. Sirius's tentacles lashed out, crushing windpipes and snapping necks. Joseph's blade found gaps in armor, spilling viscous green blood. They left the bodies cooling on the deck, never breaking stride. The bridge doors loomed before them, guarded by a full squad of elite denobulan warriors. Plasma fire filled the corridor as Joseph and Sirius dove for cover, returning fire. Joseph lobbed a pulse grenade, the detonation scattering the aliens like ragdolls. Sirius surged forward, a whirlwind of deadly tentacles and flashing steel. They breached the bridge, weapons leveled, buoyed, and froze. General Reeves stood at the center of the Denobulan command deck, a triumphant sneer on his face. "Well, well, the prodigal son returns." Reeves spread his arms mockingly. "You're too late, Joseph. The invasion has already begun." "You traitorous fuck," Joseph snarled, sighting down his rifle. "I'll put you down like the dog you are." "I'd rather die than betray my world, my species," Joseph spat. "Humanity will never submit to you, squid fucks." "So be it," Reeves shrugged. Then all hell broke loose. Reeves moved with blinding speed, enhanced by denobulan augments. He slapped Joseph's rifle aside, slamming a fist into his gut. Joseph doubled over, retching. Sirius leapt to his defense, her tentacles whipping out, but the Denobulan bridge crew swarmed her, fighting with savage skill. Plasma bolts and razor-sharp appendages flew in a deadly dance. Joseph and Reeves traded blows in a brutal slugfest, augmented fists cracking against bone and cartilage. Blood spattered the deck, human red and Denobulan green. Reeves slammed Joseph against a sparking console, hands around his throat. "You can't win, boy," he snarled. "Earth will fall and you with it." Joseph head-butted him, feeling the crunch of shattered cartilage. Reeves reeled back. Joseph pressed his attack, raining down blows. Sirius fought like a demon, tentacles lashing, blades flashing. Denobulan corpses piled around her, but more kept coming, forcing her back. Joseph hammer-fisted Reeves to the deck, drawing his sidearm. He aimed it at the general's head, finger tightening on the trigger. A massive explosion rocked the ship, throwing them all from their feet. Alarms shrieked, red emergency lights flashing. The deck shuddered and tilted beneath them. "Gunner, deadbolt," Joseph whispered, dread coiling in his gut. They had succeeded. The power core was going critical. But at what cost? Reeves laughed through bloody lips. "You see? Even in victory you lose, Joseph. How many more friends will you sacrifice for your doomed cause?" Sirius hauled Joseph to his feet, her tentacles wrapped around him. "Joseph, we have to go now. The ship is breaking up." Joseph stared down at Reeves, hatred and anguish warring in his heart. But Sirius was right. Gunner and Deadbolt had given their lives to cripple the flagship. He wouldn't let that sacrifice be in vain. He lowered his gun, turning away from Reeves. "Enjoy your tomb, traitor. I'll see you in hell." Joseph and Sirius ran, fighting through the disintegrating ship, dodging explosions and collapsing bulkheads. They tumbled into the hangar, leaping aboard a Denobulan evacuation pod just as the deck fell away into oblivion. They rocketed away from the dying flagship, watching through the viewports as secondary explosions tore it apart from within. The invasion fleet milled in confusion, their coordination thrown into disarray. Joseph sagged back in his seat, grief and exhaustion crashing over him. Gunner, Deadbolt, so many friends lost, but they had bought Earth precious time. The fight wasn't over. Sirius's hand found his, her alien skin cool to the touch. "We'll make their sacrifice matter," she said softly. "We'll rally humanity, lead the resistance. Earth will not fall." Joseph squeezed her hand, drawing strength from her resolve. He stared out at the stars, at the battered blue globe of Earth below. His home, his people. "You hear that?" he whispered to the uncaring void, to the alien armada, to the traitors and invaders. "Humanity won't go quietly. We'll fight to our last breath. This is our world, our future, and we will make you bleed for every inch of it." The pod carried them down into the atmosphere, a flaming comet heralding the coming storm. The battle was only beginning, and Joseph would see it through to the bitter end, no matter the cost. The shuttle bucked and shuddered as it plummeted through Earth's atmosphere, hull glowing cherry red from re-entry friction. Joseph wrestled with the unfamiliar controls, trying to keep the careening craft on course. Sirius braced herself against the bulkhead, blood oozing from a dozen wounds. "Brace for impact," Joseph roared as the ground rushed up to meet them. The shuttle slammed into the war-torn streets, skidding and spinning, scattering rubble. They lurched to a bone-jarring halt, emergency lights flickering. Joseph kicked the crumpled hatch open, dragging Sirius out into the smoke-choked air. Around them, Neo-Tokyo burned, denobulan dropships disgorging hordes of alien soldiers. Sleek attack craft dueled with human fighters overhead, energy beams and missiles crisscrossing the sky. A group of ragged human survivors emerged from the ruins, weapons aimed at the battered pair. "Identify yourselves," a harsh voice called. "Lieutenant Joseph Russell, un-SOC," Joseph replied, raising his hands. "And serious denobulan resistance. We have critical intel on the enemy." The leader stepped forward, a petite Asian woman with a burn-scarred face cradling a high-tech rifle. "Dr. Emilia Sato," she introduced herself curtly. "Deadbolt said you'd be coming. He gave his life to send us the data you recovered." Grief flickered in her dark eyes. "Come with me. We have work to do. We have—" Sato led them into a hidden bunker, packed with wounded soldiers and civilians. Medics tended to Sirius as Joseph huddled with Sato and her officers, poring over the stolen invasion plans. "Their primary staging ground is here." Joseph jabbed a finger at the holographic map. "If we can disrupt their supply lines and communications, it'll give our forces a fighting chance." Sato nodded grimly. "We've been working on a new weapon based on denobulan tech. It might give us the edge we need." She held up a sleek rifle, pulsing with eerie blue light. "A high-frequency sonic disruptor. Should be effective against their armor and shields." Joseph hefted the weapon, feeling its weight. "Looks like it's time to give the squids a taste of their own medicine." Hours later, Joseph crouched in the rubble with Sato's strike team, watching denobulan troops offload supplies from a massive transport. Sirius skulked alongside him, her wounds bandaged, tentacles coiled with tension. "Go," Joseph whispered, and all hell broke loose. The sonic disruptors shrieked, denobulan soldiers convulsing and collapsing as the humans charged forward, firing. Joseph vaulted over a barricade, dropping 2 aliens with precise headshots. Sirius was a whirlwind of blades and slashing tentacles, green blood splattering. They fought their way into the denobulan command post, gunning down guards. Joseph kicked in the door to the control room, rifle leveled, and froze. A hulking denobulan loomed before them, clad in heavy armor, bristling with implants and cybernetics. It moved with blurring speed, far faster than any human. "Shit, it's a super soldier," Sato cursed, opening fire. The disruptor blasts sparked harmlessly off the creature's shields. It lunged forward, seizing a screaming private and ripping him in half like tissue paper. Joseph and Sirius unloaded on the monster, bullets and energy pulses pinging off its armor. It shrugged off the hits, backhanding Sirius across the room. Tentacles lashed out, impaling another soldier, hurling the corpse aside. "Fall back!" Joseph roared, but it was too late. The super soldier was among them, a whirlwind of death tearing through the humans like a scythe through wheat. Bones snapped, flesh tore, blood sprayed the walls. In moments, only Joseph, Sirius, and Sato still stood, the broken bodies of their comrades littering the floor. The denobulan killer stalked towards them, unstoppable, implacable. Sato ripped a strange device from her belt, tossing it to Joseph. "The prototype, use it, it's our only chance." Joseph caught the weapon, a sleek pistol thrumming with strange energies. He aimed it at the advancing monster and fired. A lance of blinding blue-white light erupted from the barrel, piercing the super soldier's shields, burning a hole clean through its armored chest. It staggered, smoking, sparks cascading from its implants. Joseph fired again and again, the prototype weapon bucking in his grip. The denobulan reeled under the onslaught, its body coming apart, greenish fluids splattering. With a final thunderous blast, its head vaporized in a spray of ash and molten metal. The super soldier toppled, crashes to the decking, a twisted mass of seared flesh and fused cybernetics. Joseph lowered the smoking gun, breathing hard. Sirius limped to his side, clutching a wounded arm. Sato retrieved the denobulan commander's data module with shaking hands. "Let's get out of here," she said hoarsely. "We got what we came for." They fled the command post, leaving the dead and the fallen monster behind, but Joseph knew this was only the beginning. The Denobulans had a new breed of warrior, and Earth's survival had just become that much more uncertain. Armed with the intel ripped from the captured Denobulan commander's mind, and Dr. Sato's devastating sonic weapons, Joseph rallied the ragged resistance fighters. Sirius stood at his side, her alien form still unsettling to some, but all knew she had bled for humanity. "We strike hard and fast," Joseph barked, the holographic map of Denobulan positions glowing before them. "We hit their supply depots here, here, and here, cripple their logistics, sow chaos behind their lines." Grim faces nodded, hefting rifles and checking gear. They all knew many would not return, but they would make the squid fuckers pay in blood for every inch of Earth. In the pre-dawn darkness, Joseph and Sirius ghosted through the perimeter of a major Denobulan resupply hub. Razor wire parted like cobwebs before Sirius's nano-edged tendrils. Throats opened in gouts of ichor as Joseph's blade flashed, the crack of snapped vertebrae muffled by the roar of transport engines. They planted the sonic charges, ducking into cover as the timers raced down. The ground heaved stacked crates and alien vehicles vaporizing in blasts of blinding blue-white. Klaxons wailed as smoke billowed into the sky. All across the planet, resistance cells struck in unison. Fuel depots ignited in sheets of flame. Communications arrays toppled, sparking and crumbling. Denobulan units reeled, cut off and confused as their chain of command crumbled. But Joseph and Sirius pushed deeper, speeding towards a fortified research facility on the outskirts of the ruined city. Sato's intel pointed to something far worse than just another base, a dark secret at the heart of the Denobulan war machine. They breached the outer gates in a hail of sizzling plasma bolts, Sirius's tendrils lashing out to crush armored carapaces and pulp grey flesh. Joseph bounded over twitching corpses, rifle-spitting, armor-piercing death. The titanium blast doors of the central lab buckled and shrieked inward, belching smoke and flame. Joseph and Sirius charged into the hellish red glow and froze in horror at the sight before them. Rows of tanks bubbled and seethed, human forms twisted in agony within. Spiked probes and pulsing cables burrowed into writhing flesh, dark fluids pumping through tangles of tubes. And there, looming over it all like a nightmare made real, General Reeves. But not the man Joseph once knew, not anymore. Gleaming implants bristled from ashen skin stretched tight over bulging alloyed bone. Halves of his face rippled, human features flowing into something obscene and alien. "You're too late," the thing that had been Reeves rasped, vocal cords straining between man and monster. "Behold the future. Denobulan perfection merged with human potential. The ultimate soldiers, loyal only to us." Hulking forms burst from shattered tanks on digitigrade legs, fists pulsing with awful energies, black eyes fixing on Joseph and Sirius with pitiless hunger. Joseph felt his gorge rise, battle-honed nerves shrieking in primordial terror. But he mastered himself, training and hate steadying the rifle against his shoulder. "Oh, sick fuck," he snarled. "I'll send you to hell 1,000 times for this." Reeves' laughter grated like sheared metal. "You can try, boy, you can die trying." The hybrid surged forward, a tide of warped flesh and malice. Joseph and Sirius opened fire, the air ionizing with the stench of ozone and seared meat. A blow shattered Joseph's rifle, nerves shrieking as talons raked his side. He ducked and rolled, jamming his pistol under a hybrid's chin and painting the ceiling with its brains. Sirius scythed through the abominations in a whirlwind of razor tentacles, ichor splattering as limbs and heads parted from torsos. But they kept coming, heedless of pain or self-preservation. Reeves strode through the carnage, his twisted new body shrugging off wounds that would kill a dozen men. He backhanded Joseph across the room, ribs shattering at the impact. Through ringing ears and blurred vision, Joseph saw Sirius leap between him and the monster wearing Reeves's skin, saw alien limbs clash and strain, fluids spraying as monstrous strength pitted against desperate fury. Sirius screamed as a spear-like arm punched through her abdomen in a geyser of emerald. With a last surge of fading strength, she dragged Reeves into a crushing embrace, tentacles sinking into his body like a nest of vipers. "Joseph, the tanks, burn it all." Joseph forced himself to his feet, agony howling through every nerve. He raised Dr. Sato's jury-rigged plasma lance with shaking hands and fired. A miniature sun ignited, tanks and equipment sublimating into component atoms. Reeves and the abominations he had made shrieked as they melted and burned, forms distending as twisted flesh sloughed from warping bones. Joseph staggered to Sirius's side, gathered her broken body in his arms. Klaxons shrieked as the lab's fail-safes triggered, blast doors slamming down. He ran, lungs searing, the world tilting sickeningly with each jarring step. They burst into the blood-tinged dawn as the laboratory complex disappeared in a rising fireball, a funeral pyre for 1,000 atrocities. Joseph collapsed into the rubble-strewn street, cradling Sirius's limp form. "Sirius, stay with me, goddammit. Don't you fucking die on me, not now." Her eyes flickered open, glazed with shock and pain. Ichor bubbled between her lips as she tried to speak. "Joseph, In the distance, the fighting raged on, denobulan and human alike locked in a dance of death beneath shattered skies. But for one moment, one heartbeat, the war fell away. For Joseph, there was only her, his alien ally, his friend, his love. In the makeshift medbay, Joseph clutched Sirius's hand as Dr. Sato worked frantically to stabilize the alien warrior. Emerald blood seeped through the bandages, Sirius's breath coming in ragged gasps. "She's strong," Sato said, not looking up from the monitors. "If anyone can pull through this, it's her." Sato turned to him, exhaustion etched on her face. "Joseph, I've been analyzing the data from that denobulan lab. I think I've found something, a weakness in their genetic structure. A flaw we could potentially exploit to create a targeted bioweapon against them." Sato brought up a holographic model, alien DNA spiraling in the air. "How long to develop it?" Joseph asked, hope warring with desperation. "Not long with the right resources, but there's a catch." Sato met his gaze. "To deploy it effectively, we'd need to introduce it into a denobulan ship's atmospheric system." Joseph's jaw clenched. He knew what that meant. A suicide mission, infiltrating one of their command ships. But if it could end this war... "I'll do it," he said, standing. "Just tell me what I need to know." Sirius's hand gripped his, surprisingly strong. "Not without me," she rasped. "Sirius, no, you're in no condition..." Her eyes flashed, tendrils coiling. "You're not facing this alone." Joseph held her gaze, seeing the determination there, the fire that refused to be extinguished. Finally he nodded. "Okay, we do this together." Hours later, Joseph and Sirius crouched in the cargo hold of a captured denobulan supply shuttle, the bioweapon concealed in a canister at Joseph's belt. He checked the charge on his plasma rifle for the 100th time. "Approaching the command platform," Sirius said, monitoring the shuttle's controls. "Docking codes transmitted. Let's hope they buy it." Joseph's grip tightened on his weapon as the shuttle shuddered, magnetic clamps locking on. The airlock hissed open. 2 denobulan soldiers stepped aboard, plasma rifles leveled. "Security scan," one barked. "Prepare to..." Sirius lashed out, razor tendrils slicing through armor and flesh. The denobulans dropped, gurgling. Alarms started to blare as they raced into the command platform, a labyrinth of dark metal and pulsing conduits. Plasma fire streaked past as they ducked and weaved, Joseph dropping alien troops with precise headshots. "Atmospheric core should be on the lower levels," Sirius called out, consulting a stolen schematic. They plunged deeper into the bowels of the ship, the bioweapon canister bouncing at Joseph's hip. Bulkheads shuddered as the platform's defenses spun up, no doubt targeting their hijacked shuttle. A blast door shrieked open ahead, disgorging a phalanx of armored denobulans. Joseph swore, shoving Sirius behind cover as plasma bolts stitched the walls. He primed a plasma grenade, lobbing it into their midst. The explosion ripped through the corridor, alien screams abruptly silenced. Joseph and Sirius charged through the smoke, leaping over mangled bodies, another 100 meters to the core. They burst into the cavernous chamber, a massive sphere dominating the center, conduits and catwalks radiating out like a spiderweb. Joseph sprinted for the main console, slamming the canister into the injection port. "Cover me," he yelled, fingers flying over the controls. Sirius planted herself at his back, tendrils lashing out as denobulan troops poured into the chamber. The console beeped, red lights flashing. "It's not working," Joseph snarled, slamming his fist on the panel. "It's not interfacing with their systems." Sirius risked a glance over her shoulder, emerald blood streaming from a dozen wounds. Her gaze fell on a pulsing node at the heart of the sphere, connected to the injection port. "There, that must be the catalyst. We have to—" A plasma bolt caught her in the chest, spinning her around. She fell, smoking, eyes wide with shock. "Sirius!" Joseph screamed, catching her. Emerald blood bubbled from her lips as she pressed a hand to his cheek. "Go! The catalyst! End this!" Her head lolled back, eyes fluttering shut. Joseph laid her down gently, grief and rage boiling up inside him. He snatched up her fallen rifle, charging into the teeth of the denobulan onslaught. Plasma fire stitched his armor, searing flesh, but he didn't slow. He vaulted onto the catwalk, racing for the catalyst node, aliens hot on his heels. Shots pinged off the sphere, ricochets screeching. Joseph leapt the last few meters, slamming the canister into the node. It pulsed, glowing sickly green, the bioweapon flooding into the platform's atmospheric system. He slumped against the bulkhead, watching through dimming vision as the denobulan troops began to convulse and fall, the bioweapon ravaging their alien biology. A smile touched his lips as darkness closed in, the catalyst flames reflecting in his eyes. They had done it. They had given Earth a fighting chance. His last thought was of Sirius, as oblivion claimed him. As the bioweapon flooded the denobulan command platform's atmospheric system, Joseph and Sirius watched the readouts with bated breath. Across the screens, denobulan life signs flickered and winked out as the virus ravaged their alien physiology. On the planet's surface below, the tide of battle shifted. Denobulan soldiers, once seemingly invincible, staggered and fell, their weapons clattering to the ground. Human resistance fighters surged forward, seizing the advantage, their battle cries echoing through the war-torn streets. But in the heart of the command platform, the denobulan commander snarled in fury and desperation. He slammed a clawed fist down on a pulsing red button, his voice booming over the intercom. Self-destruct sequence initiated. This platform will detonate in 5 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately. Alarms blared, and lights flashed as Joseph and Sirius sprinted through the collapsing corridors, dodging falling debris and exploding consoles. They fought their way through the last pockets of denobulan resistance, plasma bolts sizzling past their heads. They burst into the escape pod bay, hearts pounding, lungs burning, but their hopes shattered as they saw the devastation. Pods lay strewn about, smashed and sparking, rendered useless in the chaos of the platform's death throes. Only one remained intact, a solitary gleaming cylinder amidst the wreckage. Joseph and Sirius locked eyes, a lifetime of unspoken emotions passing between them. Sirius's tentacles snaked out, wrapping around Joseph in a final, desperate embrace. "Sirius, no, don't do this!" Joseph screamed, pounding against the viewport. But Sirius only smiled sadly, her alien features beautiful and resolute. The pod blasted free from the platform, rockets flaring, pushing Joseph to safety. He watched in helpless agony as the massive structure exploded behind him, a miniature sun blooming in the void. The shockwave buffeted the tiny craft, alarms shrieking. And Sirius was gone, consumed in the inferno along with the denobulan invaders. The war was won, but the cost was too high. Earth lay in ruins, its cities shattered, its people broken and bleeding, and Joseph, The hero who had sacrificed everything felt only emptiness and grief. In the years that followed, as humanity slowly rebuilt from the ashes, Joseph withdrew from the world. The accolades and parades rang hollow, the scars of battle never fading. He retreated to a secluded cabin in the mountains, seeking solace in isolation, haunted by the memory of the woman he had loved and lost. But even as he tried to lose himself in solitude, the past refused to stay buried. Exactly 5 years to the day since the platform's destruction, since Sirius's sacrifice, a faint signal pierced the static of Joseph's long-range comm unit. "Joseph, if you're receiving this, I'm alive. I ejected in a denobulan escape pod at the last second. I've been fighting them, sabotaging their efforts to regroup, but I can't do it alone anymore. I need your help. I'm sending coordinates. Please, come find me." Joseph sat in stunned silence, hardly daring to breathe. Then, as if in a dream, he began to move. He packed his gear with trembling hands, a fierce hope kindling in his chest for the first time in half a decade. He didn't know what dangers awaited him out in the stars, what remnants of the denobulan forces still lurked in the shadows. But he knew he would face them all, fight through hell itself for the chance to see Sirius again, to finish what they started, side by side. Joseph strode out into the dawn light, eyes fixed on the horizon, a warrior reborn. The battle was not over, not while a single denobulan still threatened the peace they had bought in blood. Not while Sirius still fought, alone in the void. He would find her, whatever it took, and together they would end this once and for all. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.